My name is Celeste Simmons. I'm 28 years old. Stop begging for attention. That's what my father said. In front of 43 guests, champagne in hand, the week I graduated valedictorian. That same week, my parents threw a party with catered food and a banner in the living room. None of it was for me. I left home that night. I didn't come back for 10 years. Then my sister, the golden child, the one the party was for, called me sobbing from a payphone at 1 in the morning. Broke, homeless, license revoked. What she confessed about our parents didn't just break my heart, it made my blood run cold. Before I go on, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with this story. Drop your city and local time in the comments. I'd love to know where you're watching from. Now let me take you back to June, 10 years ago, to a house on Maple Ridge Drive, the week my family fell apart. I grew up in a 4-bedroom house on Maple Ridge Drive, just outside Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The kind of street where everyone waves from their driveways and nobody locks their front doors. From the outside, we were the perfect family. Gerald and Diane Simmons. 2 daughters, 1 tidy lawn. My father managed a regional branch of an insurance company. He wore pressed khakis every day and shook hands like it was a sport. My mother was a homemaker, active in the church women's group, always the first to bring a casserole when someone got sick. She kept the house spotless. She kept appearances spotless, too. My older sister, Monica, was 2 years ahead of me. She was tall, outgoing, effortlessly charming. The kind of person who walked into a room and everyone turned. She played volleyball. She sang in the church choir. She laughed loud and easy, and people loved her for it. I was the quiet one. I got straight A's. I shelved books at the public library after school. I ate dinner without being asked twice, and cleaned my plate without being told. I thought that was enough. I thought if I was quiet enough and good enough, they'd eventually turn around and see me. I was wrong. There's one memory that sticks. I was 14. I just made the honor roll for the 6th straight semester, so I printed the certificate and taped it to the refrigerator, right next to Monica's volleyball team photo and her choir award. The next morning, it was gone. I found it folded on the kitchen counter under a stack of coupons. I asked my mother about it. She didn't look up from her coffee. The fridge was getting cluttered, honey. Monica's photos stayed. At the time, I told myself it didn't mean anything, but that refrigerator door was a scoreboard I was never allowed to win, and I didn't know yet that the scoreboard was rigged from the start. Senior year, I had one goal: valedictorian. I took 5 AP classes. I studied until 2 in the morning most nights, hunched over my desk with a lamp and a cold cup of tea. I worked 12 hours a week at the library to save money. I wrote scholarship essays on my lunch breaks. None of it was loud. None of it was seen. That spring, the school counselor called me in and told me I'd earned the top GPA in my graduating class. I would deliver the commencement speech. 700 people, my name on the program. I drove home that afternoon with the official letter on the passenger seat, and I swear the sunlight felt different. I set the letter on the kitchen table and waited for my parents to come home. My father walked past it, picked up the mail, put the mail on top of the letter. My mother came in carrying groceries. I said, "Mom, I got something today. Can I show you?" She glanced at the table. "What is it, honey?" "I'm valedictorian. They want me to give the graduation speech." "Oh, that's nice, sweetie." She turned to the fridge and started putting away milk. "Have you started on your speech? Maybe ask one of your teachers to help." That was it. I did ask a teacher. Mrs. Ruth Calloway, my AP English instructor. She was 62, sharp-eyed, silver hair always pinned back, reading glasses on a chain around her neck. She read my first draft at her desk after school, red pen in hand. When she finished, she set the pen down, looked at me over those glasses, and she wrote one line at the bottom of the page in neat cursive. "I'm proud of you. Remember this feeling." That line from Mrs. Calloway, I would need it more than I ever imagined. Graduation week started on a Tuesday. That was the day the official valedictorian letter arrived by certified mail. Heavy cream envelope, school seal embossed in gold. I left it on the kitchen counter, propped against the fruit bowl where someone would have to see it. Wednesday morning, Monica called home. She'd been accepted to medical school. Within an hour, my mother had called 15 people. I could hear her from upstairs, pacing through the living room, her voice bright and breathless. "Can you believe it? Our Monica!" By noon, my father had ordered a banner online. White letters on navy blue. Future Dr. Simmons. By Friday, the caterer was booked. Saturday, the party. 43 guests packed into our backyard. Aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors, friends from church. My father had rented a folding table for the desserts. My mother wore a new blouse. There were champagne flutes on every surface and a sheet cake with Monica's name written in lavender frosting. I came home from my library shift at 4 o'clock. I could hear the noise from the driveway. I sat in my car for a moment, my graduation gown folded in the back seat, and I told myself, just go in, be happy for her. Maybe someone will ask. No one asked. I moved through that party like a ghost. I refilled chip bowls. I smiled at my Aunt Linda. I said congratulations to Monica, and I meant it. I truly did. She hugged me sideways, already turning to the next person. At some point, I drifted back into the kitchen, and there on the counter, exactly where I'd left it 4 days ago, was the valedictorian letter. It was pinned beneath a stack of used paper plates, soaking up a ring of condensation from someone's glass. I picked it up. The gold seal was smudged, and something inside me shifted. I walked back outside holding the letter. The yard was full. People were clustered around the dessert table, laughing, holding plates. My father stood near the grill with his arm around Monica, telling someone about the acceptance rate at her medical school. My mother was pouring champagne. I went to my mother first, touched her arm gently, kept my voice low. "Mom, I have some news too. I'm valedictorian." She looked at me, smiled quickly. "Oh, right. That's great, honey." Then she turned back to the champagne bottle and topped off a guest's glass. I stood there for 10 seconds, maybe 15. Then I tried again, louder this time, loud enough that the small group near the patio heard. "I also graduated this week. I'm giving the valedictorian speech on Monday." The yard didn't go quiet all at once. It went quiet in a ripple. A few heads turned. Aunt Patricia, my mother's younger sister, looked up from her plate. Monica glanced over. My father set down his drink. He looked straight at me, and his voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. It cut just fine at room volume. "Celeste, stop begging for attention. Not everything is about you. This is your sister's night." 43 people heard it. Nobody said a word. Aunt Patricia looked down at her shoes. My uncle coughed. Monica gave a short, uncomfortable laugh and turned to someone beside her. My mother refilled another glass, as though I hadn't spoken at all. I walked back through the kitchen, through the front door, and out to my car. I sat in the driver's seat in that driveway for 15 minutes. I didn't turn on the engine. I just sat there holding a smudged letter, breathing. That was the last time I cried over this family. I sat in that car and made a decision. I would never again hand someone the power to make me feel invisible. But 10 years later, I would learn that what my parents stole from me that night was far less than what they'd been stealing all along. Monday came. Graduation day. I put on my cap and gown alone in my bedroom. I checked my reflection in the bathroom mirror. I drove to the school by myself. The auditorium held 700 people. I know because I counted the rows while I waited backstage. Families poured in. Mothers clutching cameras. Fathers saving seats. Siblings fidgeting in the back rows. I watched them from behind the curtain and felt something hollow settle in my chest. When they called my name, I walked to the podium. The lights were warm. The microphone hummed. I gave the speech I'd worked on for 6 weeks. About perseverance, about proving yourself when no one is watching, about the quiet dignity of showing up even when no one claps. 700 people clapped. I looked at row 4, seats 7 through 10. The ones I'd reserved for my family. They were empty. All 4. But in row 3, just off the center aisle, one person stood. Mrs. Ruth Calloway. She was clapping hard, both hands raised, her eyes bright behind those glasses. After the ceremony, she found me in the crowd. She didn't say much. She just handed me a small envelope, pale blue, her handwriting on the front. Inside was a card. One line. "Your parents' blindness is not your failure. Go build your life." Tucked behind the card was a business card for a scholarship coordinator at the University of Minnesota. I kept both. I still have them. That summer, I applied. I got the scholarship. I packed 2 suitcases and drove to Minneapolis. I didn't tell my parents I was leaving. I didn't tell them where I was going. The house on Maple Ridge Drive shrank in my rearview mirror until it disappeared. And I made myself a promise. I would not look back. I didn't know that the moment I left, my parents began doing something I should have discovered much, much sooner. Minneapolis was a fresh start. I moved into a shared apartment near campus with 2 roommates I found on a bulletin board. I worked part-time at a financial services office, filing, data entry, answering phones. I ate ramen 4 nights a week and counted every dollar. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Sophomore year, I applied for my first solo apartment, a 1-bedroom in Uptown, nothing fancy, just a place where I could close a door and study in silence. I filled out the application, handed over my pay stubs, and waited. 3 days later, the property manager called. "I'm sorry, Ms. Simmons. Your application has been declined." I blinked. Why? "Your credit history shows some irregularities. I can't go into specifics, but I'd recommend pulling your full credit report." I hung up and sat on my bed, confused. I had no debt, no credit cards. I'd never borrowed a dime from anyone. I'd been careful with money my entire life. I told myself it must be a system error, some mix-up with a common last name. I was 20 years old and overwhelmed with coursework. I didn't have time to chase paperwork. So I let it go. I found a different apartment, a cheaper one, no credit check required, and I moved on. That was my first mistake, but I wouldn't understand that for years. Every few months my mother called. She always sounded the same, a little wounded, a little breathless, like she was reading from a script she'd rehearsed in front of the bathroom mirror. "Celeste, honey, I don't know what we did wrong. Your father cries at night. We just want our family back." Every time my stomach would tighten. Every time a small voice would whisper, "Maybe you're the problem. Maybe you're being selfish. Maybe you should go home." I never went home. But the guilt followed me to Minneapolis like a shadow I couldn't shake. I graduated from the University of Minnesota with honors, finance degree, 3 job offers before commencement. I took the best one, a junior analyst position at a mid-size financial consulting firm downtown. Within 2 years, I'd been promoted. Within 4, I was a senior financial analyst reporting directly to the managing partner. My boss, Margaret Thornton, early 50s, no nonsense, the kind of woman who wore reading glasses on a silver chain and remembered every number she'd ever seen, pulled me into her office one morning. "Celeste, you're one of the sharpest minds I've hired in 15 years. Keep going." I thanked her. I walked back to my desk and stared at my monitor for a long time. By 26, I had my own apartment, a reliable car, a growing savings account. I was building something real. On paper, my life looked like a success story. But every Christmas, I sat alone. I'd cook something small, roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, a glass of wine. I'd watch the snow fall over Minneapolis and think about the house on Maple Ridge Drive. Not with longing, exactly. More like a bruise you keep pressing to see if it still hurts. It always did. A little. I didn't talk to Monica. Not once in all those years. Every time her name crossed my mind, I saw the same image, the backyard party, 43 people, and my sister turning away with that short, uncomfortable laugh. She didn't defend me. She chose their side. At least, that's what I believed. I built a life that looked nothing like the one I grew up in, and I told myself that was enough. But there's a difference between enough and whole. I wouldn't learn that distinction until a payphone rang on a winter night and ripped open everything I thought I'd buried. It was a Thursday in February, 10 years after the party. I was on my couch, laptop open, reviewing a quarterly report. The apartment was quiet. Snow tapped against the window. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. An unknown number, area code 507. I almost didn't answer. I always let unknown numbers go to voicemail. But something, instinct maybe or just the late hour, made me pick up. "Hello?" Breathing, ragged. Then a voice, cracked and waterlogged, barely holding together. "Celeste? It's Monica. Please don't hang up." My hand tightened around the phone. I hadn't heard my sister's voice in a decade, but this wasn't the Monica I remembered. Confident, polished, the golden child in a white coat. This voice belonged to someone falling apart. "Where are you?" I asked. "Bus station, Rochester." "Rochester, Minnesota?" "Yes." "Why are you at a bus station at 11 o'clock at night?" A shaky breath. Then, "My phone got cut off. I don't have money for a hotel. I found a payphone." I stood up, walked to the window. The snow was heavier now. "Why aren't you at Mom and Dad's?" Silence. Long enough that I checked to see if the call had dropped. Then, very quietly, "They kicked me out 3 months ago." I set my laptop on the counter. I leaned against the kitchen wall. The words didn't make sense, not immediately. Monica was the favorite. Monica was the banner on the wall, the champagne toast, the future Dr. Simmons. Monica was the daughter they chose. "What happened?" I asked. I can't explain it all on the phone. I just need somewhere to go tonight. Please." Her voice broke on the last word. I didn't know yet what she was about to tell me. I didn't know that her next words would make me sit down on my kitchen floor. But something in the way she said, "Please, Ma," like it was the last word she had left, told me this wasn't just a bad night. This was the beginning of something I could never undo. I told her to stay where she was. She talked while I pulled on my coat, not in full sentences, in fragments, like someone picking through rubble. She'd lost her medical license 6 months ago. A prescribing error, wrong dosage, wrong patient chart. The hospital launched an internal review. The state medical board opened an investigation. Within 8 weeks, her license was suspended. 2 months after that, it was revoked. "I was working 80-hour weeks," she said. Her voice was flat now, emptied out. "I was so tired I couldn't see straight. I made a mistake." I pulled my boots on, grabbed my keys. "Did you tell Mom and Dad?" "They found out before I did. Someone from the church knew someone on the hospital board. Dad called me before the letter even arrived." "What did he say?" She laughed, a short, brittle sound. "You know what he said? You know exactly what he said." I did, but I wanted to hear it. He said, "You've humiliated this family." I locked my front door. The cold hit my face. "And Mom?" Mom didn't say anything. She just stood behind him and cried, like she always does. After the license was revoked, Monica couldn't make rent. She'd moved back into the house on Maple Ridge Drive. Temporarily, she thought. But 2 weeks in, Gerald told her she needed to leave. "People are talking," he said. "We told the church you're traveling abroad." So they hid her. And when hiding her got inconvenient, they discarded her. "They loved me as long as I was useful, Celeste." Her voice cracked again. "The second I wasn't, I became you." That sentence landed somewhere deep. I didn't respond to it. I just started the car and pulled out of my parking spot into the snow. But that wasn't the worst thing Monica told me that night. She told me about the desk. When Gerald ordered her out, Monica packed what she could. On her last night in the house, she went into our father's home office, the one room we were never allowed to enter as kids. She was looking for her birth certificate. What she found was a manila folder at the back of the bottom drawer, behind old tax returns. It was full of printed emails, she said, between Mom and Dad, going back 12 years. I was on the highway now, snow streaking through my headlights, the wipers beating time. "What kind of emails?" "About us, Celeste, about keeping us apart." My grip tightened on the wheel. She read me fragments from memory. Dad to Mom, dated the year I left. "If they talk too much, they'll compare notes. We can't let that happen." Mom to Dad, 2 years later. "Tell Monica that Celeste didn't want to come for Christmas. I'll tell Celeste that Monica is too busy." Year after year, holiday after holiday, birthday after birthday. 2 separate lies, told in 2 separate directions, designed to keep 2 sisters from ever sitting in the same room long enough to realize the truth. 12 years, Monica whispered. 12 years they made me believe you didn't care about me, and they made you believe I looked down on you." The highway was empty, just my headlights and the snow. "They played us like chess pieces, Celeste, and we never even knew we were on the same board." I drove in silence for a full minute. Then I said, "Is there anything else in that folder?" Monica's voice changed. It got smaller, careful. "Yes, and it has to do with money." My hands were steady on the wheel, but my heart wasn't. "Okay, I need to pause here for a second." If you were in my shoes right now, driving through a snowstorm at midnight, hearing all of this from the sister you haven't spoken to in 10 years, what would you do? Would you keep listening, or would you hang up? Drop a 1 in the comments if you'd keep listening, or a 2 if you'd hang up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time, because what comes next changes everything. Monica told me about the other papers in the folder. Behind the emails, in a separate plastic sleeve, there were photocopies of credit card applications. 5 of them. 3 in my name, 2 in hers. Each one opened within months of our 18th birthdays. Each one signed in a handwriting that wasn't ours. I never opened a credit card in my life, Monica said. I didn't even know these existed until I pulled them out of that drawer. I merged onto the exit ramp toward Rochester. The bus station sign glowed green in the distance. What were they used for? Tuition, car payments, the kitchen remodel, that new roof they put on 2 years ago. She paused. And the party, Celeste, the caterer, the champagne, the banner, all of it went on a card with your name on it. The total debt across all 5 accounts, over $110,000, split between 2 daughters who had never signed a single form. I thought about the apartment application. Sophomore year, the property manager's voice on the phone, "Your credit history shows some irregularities." I'd told myself it was a system error. I'd told myself it was nothing. It wasn't nothing. "That's why my credit was flagged," I said. Not a question. "Yes, that's why your credit was flagged." I pulled into the Rochester bus station parking lot. Through the glass doors, I could see a figure sitting on a plastic chair under fluorescent lights. One small suitcase beside her, head bowed. I turned off the engine. The wipers stopped. The snow piled on the windshield. "Monica." "Yeah? Do you still have those papers?" "I photographed everything, and I brought the originals." I sat there for a moment. Then I opened my door and stepped into the cold. They didn't just ignore me. They didn't just choose Monica. They used my name, my identity, to build a life I was never invited into. And they did the same thing to her. She looked different. The Monica I remembered was polished. Straight posture, bright eyes, the kind of confidence that fills a room before she even speaks. The woman sitting on that plastic chair was 15 pounds lighter, hollow-cheeked, wearing a coat that was too thin for February in Minnesota. Her hair was pulled back in a knot that looked like it hadn't been redone in days. She stood up when she saw me. We looked at each other across the fluorescent waiting room. 10 years. 10 years of silence, built on lies neither of us chose. I didn't hug her. I wasn't ready for that. But I held the door open. "Get in the car." She picked up her suitcase. It was small, the kind you'd pack for a weekend trip, not for the rest of your life. She walked past me, and I smelled stale coffee and bus exhaust. We drove in silence for the first 5 minutes. I kept my eyes on the road. She kept hers on the window. Then very quietly, she said it. "I'm sorry about the party, Celeste. I should have said something." I didn't respond right away. I let the words sit between us. The highway hummed beneath the tires. "You're staying at my place," I said, "as long as you need." She nodded. Her eyes were wet, but she didn't cry. Not yet. "But tomorrow morning, we're calling a lawyer." "A lawyer?" "A lawyer. What they did isn't just wrong, Monica. It's a crime. And if we want those accounts off our names, we have to report it." She pressed her forehead against the window. The snow was slowing down. "They're our parents," she whispered. "I know." I didn't say anything else. I didn't need to. She understood. The folder sat in her suitcase in the back seat. Those papers, those forged signatures and stolen names, were about to change everything, and our parents had no idea they still existed. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open and Monica in the chair beside me. I pulled my full credit report, all 3 bureaus: Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. It took 4 minutes to load, and those 4 minutes were the longest of my life. 3 accounts I'd never opened. 3 credit cards, each with a Milwaukee billing address. The house on Maple Ridge Drive. Opened in August, 10 years ago. The same month I left for Minneapolis. Total outstanding balance under my name, $67,000. The contact phone number on every application was my mother's cell. Monica ran hers next. 2 accounts, $48,000. Same address, same phone number, same forged signatures. I stared at the screen. $67,000. A number that had been sitting on my name for a decade while I lived on ramen and worked double shifts and got turned down for apartments I should have qualified for. I need to make a call, I said. A colleague at the firm had once mentioned a lawyer who handled fraud cases. I found his card in my desk drawer. James Whitford, attorney at law, specializing in consumer fraud and identity theft. I called at 9 sharp. His assistant put me through in under a minute. I laid out the facts, the accounts, the forged signatures, the timeline. I kept my voice even. I gave him the numbers. When I finished, there was a pause. 3 seconds of silence. Then James Whitford said, very carefully, "This is federal. This is identity theft under 18 U.S.C. Section 1028. Each forged application is a separate count." I looked at Monica. She was gripping her coffee mug with both hands, her knuckles white. Whitford's next words were the ones I wasn't ready for. "If you want these debts removed from your credit, you'll need to file a formal report, an FTC identity theft affidavit, and a police report, and that means naming the perpetrators, your parents." 2 days later, my phone rang during lunch. Monica's name on the screen, which meant she was using the phone I'd lent her. She was calling from my apartment. Her voice was tight. "Dad just called. He doesn't know I'm here. He called your number because it's the one I answered last time." I set my fork down. "What did he say?" "He wants me to come home. He says Mom is sick." "Is she?" "She's not sick, Celeste. She has acid reflux. She's had it for 15 years. I almost smiled. Almost. He said something else. "What?" "I had him on speaker. He said..." She took a breath. "He said, 'Don't contact Celeste. That girl will only make things worse. She's always been jealous of you.'" I was sitting in the break room at my office, 2 colleagues at the next table, eating sandwiches, talking about a client meeting. Normal life, 3 feet away. And here I was, listening to my father lie about me to my sister, again, from 200 miles away. "There's more," Monica said. "He told me if I don't come back, he'll call the police and report that I stole items from the house when I moved out." I set my jaw. "What items?" "He didn't say, but we both know what he's talking about. The folder, the emails, the credit card applications, the proof. Our father wasn't worried about stolen property. He was worried about stolen evidence. He just didn't know that Monica had already shown it to me. He didn't know that a lawyer had already seen it. And he had no idea that the documents he was trying to get back were the very things that could put him in a federal courtroom." "Don't call him back," I said. "Don't engage. Let Whitford handle it." I hung up and stared at my lunch. I wasn't hungry anymore. The next day, it was my mother's turn. I was at my desk when the call came in. A Milwaukee area code. I knew before I answered. "Celeste, honey." Her voice was thin and trembling, the way it always gets when she wants something. "I've been so worried about you. I don't understand why you and your sister are pulling away from us. Your father and we love you both so much." I let her finish. Then I asked the question. "Mom, did you open any credit card accounts under my name?" Silence. Not the brief kind, the kind that has weight. "What are you talking about?" 3 credit cards, my name, your phone number on the applications, opened 10 years ago." More silence. Then her voice shifted, higher, tighter, wounded. Are you accusing me? After everything I've done for you? I raised you, Celeste. I fed you. I drove you to school every morning. And now you're calling me a thief?" "I'm not accusing you, Mom. I'm asking. And you haven't said no." I could hear her breathing. Fast, shallow. Then the tears started. "I can't believe this. I can't believe my own daughter would say something like this to me. Your father was right. You've always resented this family. You've always wanted to tear us apart." Her voice cracked in all the right places. She'd had decades of practice. "Mom, I'm done, Celeste. I'm done trying." The line went dead. I put my phone face down on the desk. I sat very still for a moment. Then I opened my email and started drafting a message to Whitford. She didn't deny it, not once. She cried, she deflected, she accused, she performed, but she never once said no. That told me everything I needed to know. 2 weeks passed. I was starting to think the worst was behind us. I was wrong. My phone rang on a Tuesday evening. It was Mrs. Calloway. "Celeste, I need to tell you something, and I'm sorry to be the one." She didn't sound sorry. She sounded furious. "Your parents spoke at the church fellowship meeting last Sunday. About 30 people. Your father stood up during open sharing and told the group that you've been, and I'm quoting, manipulating Monica into cutting off the family. He said you've always been jealous, and that you're using her breakdown to turn her against them." I closed my eyes. Your mother sat beside him and cried the entire time. She told people she hasn't slept in weeks. I could picture it perfectly. Gerald standing tall, voice steady, the grieving patriarch. Diane beside him with her tissue, shoulders shaking on cue. The two of them performing Heartbreak for an audience of 30, the same way they'd performed A Perfect Family for 43 people at that backyard party a decade ago. "Some of the church members messaged me afterward," Ruth continued. "They wanted your contact information. To tell you, and I quote, 'You should be ashamed.'" 2 texts arrived while we were still on the phone. One from a woman I vaguely remembered from childhood Sunday school. "How dare you do this to your parents?" Another from a man I couldn't place. "Your mother is a saint. You're breaking her heart." Monica sat across the room reading over my shoulder. Neither of us spoke. Ruth's voice was steady now. "Celeste, I've known your parents for 20 years. I've also known you. The truth always surfaces. Don't let them rewrite your story." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Then I picked up my phone and called James Whitford. "I'm ready to file," I said. "All of it." "Are you certain? Once we file, there will be a federal investigation. Your parents will know." "I'm certain." "Let me ask you something. Have you ever had someone twist the truth about you to people you cared about? Have you ever been painted as the villain in your own story?" Type yes or no in the comments. And if this story is hitting close to home, share it with someone who needs to hear it right now. Because here's where things start to unravel for my parents. And they never saw it coming. James Whitford's office was on the 7th floor of a glass building in downtown Minneapolis. Clean lines, quiet. The kind of place where serious things happen without anyone raising their voice. Monica and I sat across from him at a long conference table. Between us, 3 credit reports, photocopies of 5 forged applications, a stack of printed emails, and a timeline I'd written by hand on a legal pad. Whitford spread the documents out. He studied each one, turning pages slowly, making notes in the margin with a silver pen. He didn't rush. "The credit card applications were signed by someone other than the account holders," he said. "The contact information on every form belongs to your mother. The billing address is your parents' home, and the charges correspond to tuition payments, vehicle purchases, and home renovations. Expenses your parents directly benefited from." He looked up. "This is identity theft under 18 U.S.C. Section 1028. Each fraudulent application is a separate federal offense. Combined with the forged signatures, we're also looking at fraud and potentially wire fraud, depending on how the applications were submitted." Monica shifted in her chair. I could feel her hesitation. I understood it. These weren't strangers we were talking about. These were the people who drove us to school, who sat at the head of the Thanksgiving table, who told us they loved us, even when they didn't mean it. "But if we want the debts removed," I said, "this is the only path." "Correct. The credit bureaus require either a police report or an FTC identity theft affidavit to initiate a dispute of this nature. There's no other mechanism." Whitford slid 2 affidavit forms across the table, one for me, one for Monica. I didn't sign that paper out of revenge. I signed it because my name had been used without my consent, and I had every legal right to take it back. Monica picked up the pen. Her hand hovered over the signature line. Then she signed. 2 weeks after we filed, the ripples started. I didn't plan them. I didn't orchestrate anything. I went to work. I came home. I cooked dinner for Monica and me. I followed Whitford's instructions. Don't contact your parents. Don't discuss the case publicly. Let the process work. But in a community as small as the one my parents built their reputation in, truth doesn't need a spokesperson. It just needs a crack in the wall. Ruth Calloway was that crack. She didn't spread gossip. She didn't post anything online. But when people asked her, and they did, because Gerald's speech at the fellowship meeting had stirred up talk, she answered honestly. I've known Celeste since she was 14, she told Martha Greer, the church treasurer, over coffee. That girl has never been jealous of anyone. If Gerald and Diane want to talk about their daughters in front of the whole congregation, maybe they should tell the full story. Martha told her husband. Her husband mentioned it to the deacon. The deacon mentioned it to someone else. Then Aunt Patricia called me. I hadn't heard her voice since the party. 10 years. She'd been the one who looked down at her shoes when my father told me to stop begging for attention. She'd been silent then. She wasn't silent now. Celeste, I should have said something a long time ago. I'm sorry. What do you mean, Aunt Patricia? She was quiet for a moment. Then, I overheard your father once, years ago. He was in the kitchen with your mother, and he said, she cleared her throat. Open another one. Celeste never checks. I closed my eyes. I didn't understand what it meant at the time, she said, but I think I do now. And if you need someone to confirm what kind of people they are behind closed doors, I'm here. The wall was cracking, and my parents hadn't noticed yet. The last Sunday of that month, Gerald and Diane walked into church the way they always did. Side by side, chins up, Gerald's hand on the small of Diane's back. They took their usual seats in the front row, but this time the seats around them stayed empty. People filed in, nodded politely, sat 2 rows back, 3 rows back. Nobody chose the spot next to Gerald. Nobody leaned over to ask Diane how she was doing. The fellowship that had once revolved around them quietly rearranged itself, not with hostility, but with distance. The pastor, Reverend Alan Marsh, didn't name anyone. He never did. But his sermon that morning was about truth, accountability, and the sacred trust between parents and children. He quoted Proverbs. He spoke about the weight of deception carried inside a household. He looked out over the congregation and said, a family built on secrecy will eventually be undone by the very secrets it keeps. Gerald stared straight ahead. His jaw was tight. Diane pressed a tissue to her face. After the service, 3 couples, longtime friends, people who had been at the backyard party 10 years ago, approached Gerald near the parking lot. Howard and Jean Dempsey, Frank and Louise Cole, the Myers. Howard spoke first. His voice was low but direct. Gerald, we need to ask you something. Is it true you opened credit cards in your daughter's names? Gerald's face didn't crumble. It hardened. My family's business is my family's business. That's not a denial, Gerald, Howard said. Diane grabbed Gerald's arm and pulled him toward the car. She was crying. Real tears this time, or maybe the same rehearsed ones. It was getting hard to tell the difference. I wasn't there. I didn't need to be. The truth doesn't need a microphone. It just needs one honest voice. And then another, until the silence becomes impossible to maintain. Gerald called me that evening. I was washing dishes. The phone buzzed on the counter, and his name lit up the screen. I hadn't seen it there in 10 years. I dried my hands, picked it up, and answered. Celeste. His voice was different, smaller. The sharp edges were gone. What was left sounded like a man standing in a room that was getting smaller by the minute. You're destroying this family. You need to withdraw the complaint. I turned off the faucet. I opened accounts under your name because I didn't have a choice, he said. All that money went to Monica's tuition, to this family. I did it for us. You didn't do it for us. You did it for the image of us. I'll pay it back, every cent. Just pull the report. You opened 3 credit cards under my name when I was 18. You forged my signature. You used my social security number. That's not a debt, Dad. That's a federal crime. His breathing got heavier. I could hear him pacing. Do you want to see your father go to prison? Is that what you want? I don't want anything from you. I want my name back. Celeste, you told me to stop begging for attention. Remember? At the party, in front of 43 people. So I stopped. I stopped asking for anything from you. And now I'm not asking. I'm filing. Silence. Then, very quietly, and this is the part I didn't expect. His voice cracked. Please, Celeste. I'm sorry. I know I was wrong, but don't send me to prison. I stood in my kitchen, phone to my ear, and I felt something I didn't anticipate. Not satisfaction, not triumph, something closer to grief. Dad, I'm not sending you to prison. You walked yourself there 10 years ago. I hung up. My hands were steady, but something in my chest was not. The weeks that followed were quiet in the way an aftermath is quiet. Not peaceful, but still. Whitford sent updates by email. The FTC had processed our affidavits. Milwaukee police had opened an investigative file. The credit bureaus had flagged all 5 fraudulent accounts and initiated formal disputes. The machinery of justice was turning, slowly and without drama, the way it's supposed to. I went to work every morning. I analyzed numbers. I sat in meetings. I drank coffee at my desk and watched the snow melt outside my window. None of my colleagues knew what was happening in my personal life. I didn't need them to. Then one Wednesday afternoon, Margaret Thornton called me into her office. She was standing behind her desk with her arms folded and a look on her face I couldn't read. Sit down, Celeste. I sat. I'm nominating you for the Midwest Regional Financial Analyst Award. It's given to 1 analyst per year across the tri-state region. The selection committee reviews next month. I blinked. Thank you, Margaret. Don't thank me. You earned it. Your work on the Pendleton account alone would have been enough. But your consistency over 4 years, that's what sealed it. She shook my hand. Firm, brief. Then she went back to her reading. I walked out of her office and down the hallway. Halfway to my desk, I stopped. I leaned against the wall, pressed my back to it, and took one long, slow breath. 10 years ago, I stood in a parking lot and cried because my father told me I was begging for attention. Now I was standing in a hallway being told I was the best at what I do. Not because I begged, not because I performed, because I showed up every single day and did the work. I didn't need my father's approval anymore. I had something better. I had my own. She showed up on a Saturday morning. No warning, no call. I opened my front door to get the newspaper, and there was Diane Simmons standing in the hallway, eyes swollen, coat wrinkled, looking like she'd driven through the night. Celeste, please, we need to talk. I held the door open but didn't step aside. She stood in the threshold, half in and half out. Your father could go to prison, she said. Do you understand what that means? We could lose everything. You opened accounts in my name, Mom. You signed the applications. I didn't have a choice. Your father made me. Mom! Monica's voice came from behind me. She stepped into the doorway, arms crossed. Diane's face changed. She hadn't known Monica was here. She looked between us, her 2 daughters standing together for the first time in over a decade, and something behind her eyes flickered. Not guilt, fear. Monica, sweetheart. Don't. Monica's voice was steady, quieter than I'd ever heard it. I read the emails, Mom, all of them, including the one where you wrote to Dad. Open another one. Celeste never checks. Diane's mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. You weren't forced, Monica continued. You participated every single time. Diane's eyes filled. She looked at me, then at Monica, then back at me. Mom, I said, I don't want you to go to prison, but I'm also not going to carry $67,000 of debt that I didn't create. You have a choice. Cooperate with the lawyer. Acknowledge what you did. Negotiate a resolution. Or wait for the federal investigators to come to you. She stared at me. Her lip trembled. Then she turned, walked down the hallway, and disappeared down the stairs without another word. Monica closed the door. We looked at each other. She'll tell Dad, Monica said. I know. Then what? Then they decide. That's their choice now, not ours. It took 3 weeks. Whitford called on a Friday afternoon. I was at my desk, mid-report, when his name flashed on my screen. They've retained counsel, he said. Their attorney reached out this morning. They want to negotiate. I leaned back in my chair. Through the window, the first green of spring was starting to push through the Minneapolis skyline. What are they offering? full acknowledgement of the fraudulent accounts, restitution of all outstanding balances, $115,000 including accrued interest, paid through a structured repayment plan. In exchange, they're requesting that you and Monica support a plea agreement rather than pushing for a full federal prosecution. What does the plea look like? Guilty plea to identity theft, 3 years supervised probation, a financial restraining order barring them from accessing either daughter's personal information, credit, or financial accounts. No prison time. I thought about it. Not for long. Monica and I didn't file this to put them in prison. We filed it to get our names back. Then this achieves that. Accept it. The paperwork took another month. Gerald and Diane Simmons entered guilty pleas in a Milwaukee federal courtroom. No cameras, no spectators, just 2 attorneys, a judge, and 2 parents who had spent 20 years building a perfect image, signing papers that admitted it was a lie. The credit bureaus removed all 5 fraudulent accounts within 60 days. My credit score climbed 190 points in 6 months. For the first time in my adult life, my financial identity was actually mine. I called the property management company in Uptown, the one that had turned me down 7 years earlier. I wasn't looking for an apartment. I just wanted to say one thing. The reason I was declined in my application years ago was identity theft. My record has been corrected. The woman on the phone paused. I'm sorry that happened to you, ma'am. I didn't ask for my name back out of revenge. I asked because it was mine. That was always enough. News doesn't travel fast in a community like the one my parents built their lives around. It travels slow, through glances, through silences, through the things people stop saying. Nobody in the church congregation held a meeting. Nobody made an announcement. But within weeks of the plea, the quiet rearrangement that had started on that Sunday morning became permanent. Gerald and Diane stopped attending services. Not because they were asked to leave, Reverend Marsh would never do that, but because the space they'd occupied for 25 years no longer felt like theirs. The front row seats stayed empty for 3 weeks before someone else filled them. Their friends, the Dempseys, the Coles, the Myers, stopped calling, not out of cruelty, out of embarrassment. We believed them, Jean Dempsey told Aunt Patricia. For 10 years, we believed every word. Patricia kept me informed. Short phone calls once a week. She didn't editorialize. She just told me what she saw. Your father put the house on the market, she said one evening in late spring. They're using the equity for the restitution payments. They're moving into a 2-bedroom rental on the south side. I sat with that for a moment. The house on Maple Ridge Drive, the tidy lawn, the refrigerator with Monica's photos, and my vanished honor roll certificate. How is he? I asked. I didn't know why I asked. He's quieter, Patricia said. Your mother, too. They don't go out much. Thank you for telling me, Aunt Patricia. Of course, sweetheart. I hung up and stood at my kitchen window. The trees along my street were starting to bloom. He spent his whole life building an image, and in the end, the truth didn't demolish it. It just turned the lights on, and the people around him finally saw what had always been there, and looked away. Monica lived with me for 3 months. I won't pretend those months were easy. We were 2 women in their late 20s, sharing a 1-bedroom apartment, carrying 2 decades of damage we were only beginning to understand. There were good nights, cooking together, watching old movies, laughing at things that probably weren't that funny. And there were bad nights. One evening in March, I said it, the thing I'd been holding since the party. Why didn't you say something, that night? When Dad told me to stop begging, you just laughed. Monica put down her fork. She looked at the table for a long time. Because I believed him, she said. I thought you were being dramatic. They'd spent years telling me you resented me, that you were jealous, that you wanted to ruin every good thing that happened to me. And I bought it. All of it. For 10 years? For 10 years. We sat in silence. The heater clicked. I'm sorry, Celeste. I don't know how to make it right. You don't have to make it right. You just have to be honest. We started therapy, separately. Different offices, different therapists. Monica worked through the pressure of being the golden child, the impossible weight of a role she never chose. I worked through the invisibility, the guilt, the years of wondering if I was the problem. Monica found a job in April, a community health outreach coordinator at a nonprofit clinic. She used her medical knowledge without needing a license. The pay was modest. She didn't care. First time in my life I'm working because I want to, she told me one evening, lacing up her sneakers for an evening walk. Not because Dad needs a doctor in the family portrait. By May, she'd moved into her own apartment, 15 minutes from mine. Healing isn't a straight line. Some nights we argued. Some nights we just sat together in silence. Both were necessary. The award ceremony was held at the Grand Marquette Hotel in downtown Minneapolis. A ballroom with tall windows, white tablecloths, and 200 people from financial firms across the Midwest. I wore a navy dress I'd bought for the occasion. Simple. Professional. I arrived alone, checked in at the registration table, and took my seat near the front. When I looked at row 3, just off the center aisle, I saw two faces I didn't expect, Monica, and beside her, Ruth Calloway. Ruth had flown in from Milwaukee that morning, $80 for a round-trip budget flight. She was wearing a gray blazer and her reading glasses on their chain, and she was sitting in the third row with her hands folded in her lap, exactly the way she'd sat at my graduation 10 years ago. My name was called at 8:15. I walked to the podium. The microphone hummed. The lights were warm. 200 people looked up at me. I kept my speech short. 10 years ago, someone told me I was begging for attention. I carried that sentence with me for a long time. Tonight, I'm not begging for anything. I'm standing here because I earned this, and I want to thank the people in this room, and a few who aren't, who saw that before I could. The room applauded. I looked at row 3. Monica was crying. Not the broken, ragged tears from the bus station. Clean, quiet tears, the kind that come when something lost is finally returned. And Ruth Calloway stood, both hands up, clapping hard, the same way she'd stood in that auditorium a decade ago when 700 people applauded and 4 chairs sat empty. After the ceremony, she found me by the coat check. She pulled me into a hug, brief, firm. "You see," she said, "I told you. Remember this feeling." The same woman who stood for me at 18 stood for me at 28. But this time, she wasn't alone. 6 months after the ceremony, a letter arrived. Not an email, not a phone call. A handwritten letter in a plain white envelope, postmarked Milwaukee. My father's handwriting, tight, slanted, the same penmanship he used on insurance forms my entire childhood. I sat on my couch and opened it. 2 pages, blue ink. He didn't start with an apology. He started with an explanation, or something close to one. He wrote about growing up poor in a town where nobody had anything, about dropping out of his first year of college because he couldn't afford it, about filing for bankruptcy at 30 and the shame that followed him like a second shadow. I thought if this family looked perfect, then maybe we would be. I thought if people saw Monica in a white coat, they'd see me as something more than a man who went broke at 30. I was wrong. I built a house on lies and I told myself it was love. Then he wrote this. "I know I was wrong about you, Celeste. I don't expect you to forgive me. I'm not asking for that. I just want you to know. I see you. I should have seen you a long time ago. I see you now. It's late, but I see you." I read the letter twice. Then I folded it, put it back in the envelope, and placed it in the top drawer of my nightstand. I didn't write back. I sat by the window for a while. The sun was going down over Minneapolis, painting the sky in shades of copper and gray. I thought about the refrigerator on Maple Ridge Drive, the vanished certificate, the smudged gold seal under a stack of paper plates. He finally saw me, but I no longer needed to be seen by him. That's the difference 10 years makes. I didn't close the door on my father that night, but I didn't open it either. I just let it be, neither locked nor wide. A boundary, not a wall. The distinction matters. So here's where I am now. I'm 28. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment in Minneapolis with a small balcony that overlooks a row of elm trees. In the fall, they turn gold. In the spring, they fill the street with that soft green light that makes everything feel possible. My credit score is the highest it's ever been. I'm saving for a down payment on a house, a real one, with my name on the deed and nobody else's. I go to work every morning at a job I love, for a boss who tells me I'm sharp instead of telling me I'm too much. Monica lives 15 minutes away. We have dinner together every Thursday, not because someone told us to, but because we want to. Sometimes we cook. Sometimes we order Thai food and eat it on our couch with a movie playing in the background. We don't talk about our parents every time, but when we do, we talk honestly. That's new for us. It's still hard. It's getting easier. Monica calls our father once a month, short, polite, careful. She sets a timer on her phone, 15 minutes, no more. She says it's enough for her. I respect that. I don't judge it. Everyone draws the line where they need to. I don't call him. I don't call my mother. The letter sits in my nightstand drawer, still unanswered. Every Christmas, Ruth Calloway sends me a card. Last year she wrote, "Still proud, always proud." I stuck it to my refrigerator with a magnet, and this time, nobody took it down. My family doesn't look like the one I grew up in. It's smaller, it's quieter, and it's entirely mine. There's a freedom in that. A strange, hard-won, imperfect freedom. The kind you only find after you stop waiting for someone else to hand it to you. If you ask me what I learned, and I know that sounds like the part of the story where someone gets preachy, so I'll try not to. I'd say this. First, if your family only loves you when you're useful to them, that's not love. That's a transaction, and you are allowed to walk away from a deal you never agreed to. Second, setting a boundary is not betrayal, it's not cruelty, it's not selfishness. It is the most basic act of self-respect a person can perform, saying, "This is where I end and where you begin." I spent 18 years with no boundaries and 10 more years learning how to build them. I wish someone had told me earlier, you don't need anyone's permission to protect yourself. Third, if you graduate top of your class and nobody throws you a party, throw your own. Buy yourself a cake, light a candle, sit with it. You earned that moment, and no one else's silence can take it from you. And fourth, this is the one that took me the longest to understand. If someone tells you stop begging for attention when you're sharing something you're proud of, the problem is not that you're too much. The problem is that they are offering too little. And that gap is not yours to fix. I'm not telling you what to do with your family. I don't know your story. I don't know your parents, your siblings, your history. But I know this. The people who are supposed to love you should not be the ones who make you feel invisible. And if they do, you are not obligated to stay in the room. Setting a boundary is not abandoning your family, it's refusing to abandon yourself. That's what I learned, the hard way, over 10 years, and I'd do it all again. I started this story with a girl, 18 years old, sitting in a parked car in her parents' driveway, holding a smudged letter, crying in the dark while 43 people laughed and clinked glasses in the backyard behind her. I'm 28 now. I don't cry over them anymore. Not because I don't feel anything. I feel everything. I feel the weight of what was lost and the relief of what was found. But I've learned the difference between tears that heal you and tears that keep you small. I don't waste mine on people who never earned them. My father told me I was begging for attention. He was wrong. I wasn't begging for attention. I was asking to be seen by the people who were supposed to see me first. And when they refused, I learned to see myself. That's not a Hollywood ending. There's no dramatic courtroom scene, no tearful family reunion on a porch somewhere. Some stories don't end with a hug. Some stories end with a woman standing in her own apartment, hanging a card on her own refrigerator, and knowing, for the first time, that she's enough. If you're out there right now, and you're the one your family forgot, the quiet one, the good one, the one who did everything right and still got overlooked, I see you. Your story matters. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Dad said I was begging for attention. He was wrong. I was asking to be seen. And now I see myself. Thank you for staying until the end. If this story meant something to you, drop a comment and tell me. What boundary did you set that changed your life? I read every single one. If you want more stories like this, hit that subscribe button and check the description for our latest video. And remember, you don't need anyone's permission to be proud of who you are. I'll see you in the next one.